A side, B side, what side are you on?
Well, hello, Adam. Welcome back to another episode of A Side B Side Podcast.
Hi, Brooke. How are you doing today?
Very tired. I pulled almost an all-nighter. Haven't done that in a long time. But it was fun.
It was like a good all-nighter, not like
it wasn't like stressed out and I can't sleep.
Yeah.
No. It was a good all-nighter. Snoop Dogg was in Lincoln for 420.
Which, I mean, where else could you be on 420 but Lincoln, Nebraska?
Which is hilarious to me. And it's part of a very small tour, like very small. And Lincoln was one of the stops, and we just happened to get 420. So
I mean, like, how small are we talking? Is it basically just like LA, Lincoln, New York? Because I mean, that's the general.
No, it's like Moline. It's like Lincoln, Moline, Illinois, someplace in Kansas. I think he's hitting a place in Minnesota. He's going to be in like Corbin, Kentucky, and then that's about it.
Huh? That's really interesting. I wonder, like, if he just likes, because it sounds like, smaller collegey towns.
Maybe. Like Corbin,
you know?
Corbin, Kentucky it's on the eastern side of Kentucky. It's only 7,000 people.
Yeah, but is that where Eastern Kentucky University is?
Maybe.
Because I'm thinking that maybe there's like he's doing like a college tour, because like there's a someplace in Kansas has got to either be like Manhattan or Lawrence.
Maybe that would make that. Let's see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in Corbin, Kentucky,
except 7,000 people who all want to get high with Snoop.
Yeah, and it is the birthplace of the original Colonel Sanders Cafe and Museum. So,
yeah,
that's interesting. Hey, good for him. It's cool that when you see like artists go places other than the big like metropolitan areas.
Yeah. I mean, I never would have figured he'd be in Lincoln, but there he was, and I mean, it was a doozy of a crowd for real. So
yeah, the Instagram stories look fun, and I love that he's wearing still the Crooks and Castles like sweatsuit that he wore at the Super Bowl, because when I accidentally subscribed to Streetwear last year, at a Streetwear monthly box for about 3 months, I have some Crooks and Castles apparel as well. So clearly, Snoop and I very similar in terms of
same
fashion.
Wavelength.
Yeah,
same wavelength. I'm trying to think in terms of shows. I think I've just been kind of key. The Good Place. I started that forever ago, and I can't remember why I stopped. And then it popped up like on my Netflix, and I was like, oh, I need to finish this. And can I just tell you, that is the cutest, funniest, silliest show. Like, if you just need a quick watch that will just warm your heart, that's it right there.
I also had started it at one point, and I really enjoyed it, and I don't know why I stopped watching it. And then every time I see like a clip or like a post, like it'll pop up in a meme or a GIF or something, or a GIF or whatever you want to call them, on like Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or something, because they all are out there. I'm like, why didn't I watch more of that show? I should go back and watch it. And then it's like immediately out of my brain.
Yeah, that was the same. And I was like, oh, I'll go back and watch it eventually. And I never did. And then finally I was like, you know what? I am going to finish this, because I keep hearing how amazing the series ended, blah, blah, blah. And so I finally did finish it. And I feel like I want to start all over again, because it's just such a cute watch.
Yeah. And that's pretty awesome that you could be able to watch the same. You want to watch the same series again. Like I said, I tell myself, oh, I should watch this new series. And I'm getting ready for bed, and it's like, am I going to watch Midsummer Murders or White Collar? I don't know.
You should try and add that or Schitt's Creek to your rotation.
I started Schitt's. That's another one where I've enjoyed every moment I've watched it, but then I just don't go back to it for some reason. I'm like, well, I wonder what's happening in Longmire. Nothing new in 5 years, Adam.
Oh my goodness.
So who opened for Snoop last night? Or was it just him or
no? Okay, so I think it was, I don't know if they were local. I don't think they're local because of course they were like Lincoln, Nebraska, whatever. But
at least they said the right town though.
well, there was one guy who was like, "Hello, Lincoln, Nebraska," and I was like, I think he had to check his notes to make sure like where he was, because it wasn't like a Lincoln, Nebraska. It was like, "Hey, Lincoln, Nebraska."
What state is this?
He's probably thinking, am I really in
Nebraska? Am I in Lincoln for
real? But Snoop very clearly was like, all right, Lincoln, come on, Lincoln. I mean, very happy to be here. He could tell he was having a good time. It was a great show. I mean, he's still full of energy. He danced around the whole night. Obviously, he did other things as well.
No, it's
Snoop on 420, right?
Yeah. It happens,
I mean, I think he came out doing that. I know he did. I know for a fact he came out doing that. And then, in between his, his verses and stuff. But I mean, it's Snoop. If he didn't, I think we'd all go, are you okay?
Yeah. Like, hey, somebody needs to check on Snoop. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guy's everywhere lately.
Oh my gosh. He's got a new show on Peacock and it's like I think it's like stupid criminal videos or something. And it's called like So Dumb It's Criminal.
And it's just him watching videos?
And probably narrating because everybody loves when he narrates videos.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was like, forget cops. Let's just do that. Let's just get the B-roll from cops and have Snoop describe what's happening.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it though, because I mean the guy seems to really enjoy everything that he does. Like, I want that level of enjoyment. Like, I think we all have times with work or no matter what we do, we're like, man, I got to do this again today.
Right.
And maybe he just chooses joy every day, but like, he always seems like he's having a good time.
He really, truly does. Like last night, you could see he's just laughing and smiling. And, it's like he really, that's, with everything else he does, he's got American Song Contest. He's got, the new whatever show. He does the things with Martha. Being on stage performing is his big love. Like, you can tell that's his love. Everything else is great. It's just like the icing on the cake. But that being on stage and performing and rapping is where he lives.
It's awesong. Like I said, I wish I had that level of enjoyment for like anything other than just rewatching White Collar Leverage and Longmire, because then I'm like, this is my place. I am a happy person. It's like, it's not a career, sir.
I mean, sometimes people will pay you to watch things.
Yeah, but not like, I feel like if you do that, you always sign up for like one of those weird psychological tests where they're like going to watch you have to watch like the same sad videos with different music behind them, and then they like test. Not that I've actually done this. And they give you like $25 at the end, and you're just like super depressed. And they're like, so when we played this sad video with this music behind it, your blood pressure didn't rise as much as this music. Why do you think that was? It was like, because I was sad. And added sad music to the sad video that you made me watch 10 times. And you're only giving me $25. That is $2.50 a bad moment. It's not cool. Now you just check my blood pressure right now.
Because you were making me watch all these Sarah McLachlan animal videos. I am sad.
It's just ridiculous. But someday, maybe I can get a job just watching TV. Actually, one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had, I was an overnight security guard in college. And I wasn't the security guard that walked around and like protected stuff. I was the guy who sat at the switchboard, and like when people would call into the college, you would then transfer them to their rooms, because this is back in the 90s where not everybody had like cell phones with them at all times, and like if you wanted, you couldn't call the room directly, you had to call the switchboard. And then when the real security guard would be walking around, he would call in and I would just log everything down. But one of the things we could do is just sit there, and then we had one of those old school TV VCR combos, and you could bring in DVDs and VHS and just watch them all night long.
Oh, nice.
So I would be up all night watching movies, which is kind of what I was going to be doing anyway, and just occasionally have to answer the phone or like clock in when the security guard had checked block doors and stuff. So it was pretty great. I worked 72 hours straight once, and then they passed a new rule that you couldn't do that.
72 hours.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Good gracious.
Just be sitting at that desk, watching movies, drinking a lot of caffeine, getting sandwiches delivered. I was really,
it does sound like your life ordinarily.
I was going to say it really kind of was the perfect time for me, but then they were like, we have to. Somebody's like, that's not healthy, and I'm like, I got like the light sandwich. Yeah, and they're like, no, new rule, nobody can work more than like 24 hours in a row. And I was like, pfft.
It's because of you. Now people are like, dang, I can't work 72 hours.
Well, yeah, in hindsight, probably wasn't the best decision, but I was saving up money to go on a trip. So I was like, that was great. That was a great check because 32 of those hours were overtime.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's fun stuff.
Do you have anything else? Anything else you've been watching besides?
I saw the new Moon Knight. We talked about that a little bit before we even hit record, and it's the 4th episode. And the 4th episode seems to be when Marvel kind of ramps things up in these 6-episode series, and they certainly do that. I very much enjoyed it. I don't want to say anything about it because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. Mm-hmm. And it has only been out for a couple of days. I actually didn't watch it. Like I was trying to stay up on Tuesday night to watch it, and I had just had a really fun Tuesday. I finally got to go for the first time in more than 3 years since pre-pandemic. My Tuesday night trivia group got together and we actually played trivia, and we got 3rd place, and that was really great. And so I was in a really good mood, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay up and everything. And then I was like, yeah, but you've been up since like 5 because I couldn't sleep well the night before, and evidently I can't do 72 hours in a row anymore because I couldn't even do 23 and make it to watch Moon Knight. And then yesterday was really busy, so I haven't gotten to watch it until Thursday. And I was so scared that part of the reason is I don't want to stumble into spoilers. Like I don't have anybody who's like gonna call me up and be like, here, did you know what happened? But between Twitter and Instagram and just all the shows that I watch on YouTube, like all the recap shows and like what did you miss in which has their whole like recap thing, and they're like, they said this number which correlates to this episode of Moon Knight, comic book that came out in 1978 where he wore a hat. It was like, okay, it's really in-depth stuff, and that trying to avoid all of that for like 24 hours, but I did it, so that felt really good. And then I immediately finished the episode and went to YouTube to try to figure out all the things that I missed, because they're like, why try to do it myself when I could just use a team of media experts to do all the research, which is nice.
Use your cheat code.
Yeah. So it's really good. But today is also like the first decent day that we've had in Minnesota in like a week. It's been rainy and windy, and I've had to make sure that things don't blow off of my patio and fly onto other people's patios anymore. So today the sun was out, and it's one of those like gotcha days where you look outside and the blue sky and the sun is shining, and you're like, oh man, I bet it's nice out. Let's go for a nice long walk. And then you go out the first time and you're like, oh, it's 30 degrees and windy. So we need to go back in and we need to put the right stuff on. So the dog gets very excited when I go to the dog sweater drawer, because then she knows if I put the dog sweater on, that means that we're going for a long walk. So she basically like Superman's into the sweater. As I'm holding it up, she'll like jump in and stick her head in there. Then she's like trying to flail to get her arms out. I'm like, just slow down, but very excited. So it was great to get out today, because the next 2 days it's going to get rainy and nasty again. I've been told that we may break 50 sometime in May, so that'll be exciting.
Wow. Look at you go.
Basically just going to be Bermuda shorts and Hawaiian shirts and giant thick brimmed hats.
All right. So are you ready for this week?
I am ready.
This one's a doozy.
Oy vey. They always are.
I know. I say that every week, but every week it's true.
It is. It's not wrong. And I tell myself, no, it's like, it'd be weird if one week I was like, you were like, hey, this one is fun and uplifting true crime murder show. I'd be like, I think we've gone too far, Brooke. We need to step back from the true crime when we're using fun and uplifting.
No, okay. I will say that the survivor stories may
Those
not be
are
fun, but they are uplifting.
that. I don't know if I'd go with uplifting. I don't like walk out afterwards and be like, you know what? The world is an okay place.
Well, but when you have somebody like Terry Jandusa or
Inspiring.
Okay,
Yeah.
inspiring.
Like, I would say it causes awe.
Okay, you're right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a much better. That's okay.
Yeah,
That's
definitely that thing. But it's not like, you know what? That lady got put in a barrel and was supposed to die and she got out. So it's gonna be okay if I go to work. And that'd be like uplifting. I'd be like, yeah. It's not really a correlation.
Oh goodness. All right.
I mean, luckily I don't deal with any barrels at work. So
all right. So this week we are going to talk about Jamaica's first and most prolific serial killer. I don't think we've tackled Jamaica yet.
I don't think we've done a lot on islands that weren't England.
No, I don't. I think you're correct. I don't think that we have.
Which is a very specific terminology that only I use.
So this week we're talking about Lewis Hutchinson, who was born in Scotland in 1733. And you're like, wait, you just said Jamaica. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. So Lewis, like I said, he was born in Scotland in 1733, where he's believed to have studied medicine. And that's pretty much all we know about his early life. That's it.
Yeah. So nobody's got a library built to him.
So in the 1760s, when Lewis Hutchinson was about 30, he moves to Jamaica and he comes upon an estate that he purchases, and he calls it the Edinburgh Castle. It's in St. Anne Parish in the San Pedro district of Jamaica. So Edinburgh Castle is said to be a 2-storied square stone building with 2 circular loopholed towers placed diagonally at opposite corners. Would you call that catty corner? Isn't that considered catty corner?
You see, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever used that word correctly, because I always call it kitty corner.
Is it?
And then I've heard catty corner.
See, I always heard catty corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like adjacent, which is also like, I don't use that word correctly. It's always like, it's next to it, kind of. You'll see when you get there.
Way.
Yeah. Like you can stand at one, you can see the other one, but you can't touch it, you know?
So Lewis is said to have legally obtained the house, which is now in complete ruins. But while he was in the house, there was a group of cattle that he was able to obtain that was not legal. He stole cattle from his neighbors. So he acquires the house legally, but then he's like, yeah, but this cattle that costs much less than this house, I'm going to steal it.
Yeah. Or he's just like, the cow walks from yard to yard and he's like, oh, this is my cow. And they're like, no, that's clearly Bessie. And he's like, no, it's a Bessie. That's totally different. This is mine.
Right. So, of course, his neighbors are like, man, you're stealing our cattle. He's like, no, it just wandered on my property. Therefore, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah. Yeah. Not my fault they want to live in the big house.
Of course, this is not going to be the only accusation made against our most prolific serial killer in Jamaica's history. Side note, Jamaica was an English colony from 1655, and then it became a British colony from 1707, and then it gained independence in 1962.
Which, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that that's not even that long ago.
I know. That's
like, well, I mean, it's 60 years. So
but it's still a
60
lifetime.
Years.
That's still within somebody's lifetime.
Yeah, and we still had like colonies 60 years ago.
I know. Shortly after Lewis arrives in Jamaica and he gets his Edinburgh Castle estate, travelers start disappearing. And then it's like, okay, why is everybody going missing? We're on an island. Where are you going?
Yes, limited space. You get lost, you're still on the island.
So for miles, the Edinburgh Castle was the only populated location on the way from St. Anne's Bay, which is, I mentioned, in the parish. And what he would do, Lewis was also known as the Mad Doctor.
Oh.
His home was actually close enough to the road that he was kind of snipering the people that would walk past. People would just be traveling the main road, and it was the main road passed in front of one of his main towers, and he'd just pick them off. And then he would steal their belongings, and he'd force his slaves to toss the bodies into the nearby sinkhole. That sinkhole has become known as Hutchinson's Hole. During Lewis Hutchinson's time in the 1700s, there were estimated to be around 200,000 Black slaves in Jamaica. It didn't matter what the passersby looked like. He was just taking out people. It was pure sport for him. He was a thrill killer. So race, age, gender, income, didn't matter. Everybody was fair game. You walk in front of his property, he's going to try to shake you out, or will take you out.
It's like, don't go down that road.
Right. It has been said that he actually would feed on the flow of his victims' blood as he dismembered them. Wow. Yeah, that's some good imagery, right?
Yeah, that is interesting wording.
Yeah.
Feed on the flow.
Feed on the flow of the blood. That's very 1700 sounding.
Well, yeah, but also, like, were I to create a death metal band, Feed on the Flow is definitely in the top 10.
Oh, Feed on the Flow.
Death metal, yeah. Or at least it would be at least a record album.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, of course, rumors travel, word travels that, hey, people are walking in front of his house and now people are missing. So people started to avoid him as much as they could. But again, his house is in the middle of the parish and you have to walk past it.
Yeah,
so there's only so much you can.
Like it's at the the edge of town or something. If you want to get from point A to point B, you got to go past it.
Yes. So of course nobody wants to deal with him because everybody's afraid of him. So he remains free for a long time. His slaves would even talk about like his terrible treatment, and they would talk about these grisly murders that he committed. And this went on for several years. Well, finally, an English soldier by the name of John Callender was attempting to apprehend Lewis Hutchinson. And Hutchinson, for sport or to avoid capture, whatever, shoots this soldier. After he shoots the soldier, John Callender, he takes off to what's called Old Harbor. It was in the south side or the south end of Jamaica, and he tries to board a ship. Well, the Royal Navy, who was commanded, this is in 1773, the Royal Navy, who was commanded by Admiral Rodney, caught him before he was able to get on the ship and escape. So he's caught, he's tried, he's found guilty. Okay. As he is found guilty, he knows he's being put to death. And he says, his final words were, "This is what I want inscribed on my tombstone. Their sentence, pride, and malice I defy. Despise their power, and like a Roman I die." Authorities were like, "Nah, son, it's not happening."
It's like, no, that's like, the guy was about to write it down, and then it kept going, and he's like, it's just gonna be your name and some dates, dude.
Right,
I'm sorry.
Right.
It's like,
here lies Lewis.
Yeah.
The creep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's lies less more, no less, no more.
Lewis Hutchinson was hung or hanged in Spanish Town Square in 1773. His final toll, his victim count, is unknown. But when they searched his home, approximately 43 watches were found and a huge amount of clothing.
43 watches?
43 watches.
So either he like killed 3 guys who sold watches.
Right.
Or 40 some people.
Or he took out a lot. And imagine, okay, so this is the 1700s. I can't imagine there was many women with watches. Right.
And I can't imagine everybody had watches. It's probably
right.
Just like 43 well-off people.
And a bunch of other people.
And a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And and stole some cows.
Yeah. So the records of his trial are still in the National Archives and in the Jamaican archives. During his trial, his slaves revealed that he did not act alone. James Walker and Roger Maddox were some of his participants in the murder of a farmer named William Lickley and a school teacher named Timothy Cronin. Roger Maddox was married to a woman named Dorcas. So his wife, Dorcas, a woman named Susanna Cole, and a woman named Elizabeth Thomas watched as the teacher, or schoolmaster Timothy Cronin, was strangled to death.
Oh, good gosh.
His watch and his seal were found in Elizabeth Thomas's possession, even though she was found not guilty.
Oh, yeah. So they were just like, hey, we were just bystanders. You
right.
know,
they probably like, we were afraid. What were we to do?
Yeah. I don't know. Tell somebody?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they had to go to town at some point. They weren't like kept in the... But, you know, I've never had to live with a serial killer. It's probably a very stressful situation.
The video game Assassin's Creed 3, there's a protagonist, of course, fictional protagonist character named Connor Kenway, who visits this Edinburgh Castle in Jamaica in 1776, which was 3 years after he was hung, in search of Joseph Palmer's piece of Captain Kidd's treasure map, which was implied to have ended up in Hutchinson's private museum. So, of course, this is, you know, taking some facts, some fiction, and putting it in the video game.
I mean, those are fun video games. Much more mystery, and like you have to like do a lot of sneaking around as opposed to just like running and fighting and killing. So there's a lot more to them than you think.
Oh, I've never played it ever. So
it's a very good series. I mean, they've expanded to an absurd level now, where I think the last one I just saw that popped up as an ad was like Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ragnarok or something. So
oh wow.
Yeah, it was like, wow, we've really gone quite far. The movie, exceptionally bad.
I was gonna ask, isn't there a movie based on this?
Yeah, there was. What is his name? He played Magneto. He's a very good actor. But it was his like one attempt. Yeah, right.
Real good looking, great hair dude.
Yeah, British guy, tall. We are so good at this. Wow, we should have a podcast about like I don't know, media or something, because we could totally figure out who this dude was. Ian something, Michael Fassbender. Wow.
Yes, there it is, Ian.
Wow, yeah, that's right. I just had to say the wrong one to stall until I could look up the right one.
Yes, Michael Fassbender. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, duh, obviously that's it.
Yeah, that's obviously. I don't know how we forgot that. I mean, it's almost we talk about him almost as much as we talk about Angelina Jolie, so it's ridiculous.
But you like the description of him, right? Good looking dude, great hair.
Oh yeah, you know, and he was the guy who was in the show with that girl where they did the thing. You remember?
Oh, you know that guy. No, not that one. The other one. Yeah.
The other one. Yeah. He's been in everything. He's been in a lot of stuff.
The website Jamaicans.com warns travelers to avoid the castle because it is said that the ghosts of the victims still roam the estate.
I feel like that should be like a tourist. Like in this day and age, people would pay to go there.
People would pay to spend the night there.
Yeah, you could turn it into like a really creepy B&B.
Yes. Yeah.
In the morning, you'll wake everybody up. It's like, time to feed the flow.
I'm
feed
actually
on
surprised.
The flow. We're not feeding flow.
Maybe it's the difference in culture, because like here, like think of like Louisiana, like New Orleans, like everything is a tour, like everything that's haunted is a tourist attraction. So it could just be like the cultural difference, and they're probably like, you Americans are crazy, stay out of this castle, it truly is haunted. Yeah,
it could be legit haunted, you know. They might be like, yeah, we tried that to make it funny, and then a bunch of people died, so we don't do that anymore. So don't go there. Please.
We are warning you, stay away.
Like we tried to turn into a bed and breakfast. It didn't work. Do not go there.
It's pretty bad when it's on the country's official website.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah. And not like tongue in cheek. Like, this might be bad for you. It's like, seriously, don't go there. Like, we don't like to talk about this. We're going to dress at one time, and then you go to a beach. All right, you came to Jamaica, you stay at the beach.
If you go, it is on you. We have warned you.
Yeah, we put on the official site. Nobody can sue us. It's actually, some lawyer was probably involved, being like, guys, we got to put this on the site in case someone actually goes to the site and gets murdered. Right. This will give us deniability, and therefore,
oh goodness! But
we're legally indemnified.
That is the story of the Jamaican serial killer, the first
and the most prolific. And the worst part is, like, if and this is a weird thing to think about. If you were trying to break that record, you would never really know if you broke it because there's not an official count.
I know.
There were some watches. So
you're like, I hit 43.
Yeah. I still like the theory that at least one of them was a watch salesman, which really threw the count off. We have no idea otherwise.
Oh, but there you go. That is the story of Lewis Hutchinson, and that's the B-side.
And I know another place that I shouldn't visit when I go on my international world tour.
Yes, you stay away from the Edinburgh Castle.
So often when I am starting the A side, I try to think of something that connects with your side. And there's legitimately no connection between a Jamaican serial killer and today's that guy from that thing.
Thank goodness.
So I think we're just to celebrate that. Sometimes, what isn't there is the thing to celebrate. So there is no connection between the gentlemen we're going to talk about today, other than the fact that they have both passed from this mortal coil within, his was a little more recent than Mr. Hutchinson's back in the day. So just the other day, in fact, yesterday, I was going through my mental break time when I, been working on spreadsheets and I need to step away for a second. And I was reading the New York Times article, and an article pops up about this gentleman who had passed away. And it's a headline which says, Mad Men actor Robert Morse passes away at the age of 90. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad. I really haven't watched Mad Men, though. It's another one of those shows that, we've all got them where people are like, you should watch the show. It's so great. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get into it. And then like 10 years go by and you go, I missed it. My bad. And now it kind of feels weird to go back and rewatch it. And also, I don't know that I would love it. Like, it feels like it's just a little bit, very much of a different time. And it would probably like make me more frustrated than enjoyable. But he was Bertram Cooper, who was one of the founders of the Mad magazine, of the advertising agency that the Mad Men all work at, Sterling Cooper. And he did an amazing job. He was nominated 8 times for a Primetime Emmy. Is it 8 times? I'm good at math. 5 times for that alone, and then 2 other nominations. So nowhere was it 8, it was 7 total, but nominated 5 times as the outstanding guest actor in a drama series, which is kind of amazing because at that point he's, in his 70s. It's near the end of his career. And then in the article, there was this picture of him as a younger man. And I went, wait, I know that guy. I don't know the character from Mad Men, but I definitely know this guy. But I don't know where I recognized him from. So I started diving into his career and going down, sort of that internet black hole of, connections where you read this one article and it leads you to another article, which leads you to another article. And through that, I find an amazing history of a man who has been in film since 1967 through his last credit is in 2019. So just like a little bit before pandemic, who's won Tony Awards, been nominated for Emmy Awards, won Screen Actor Guild Awards, has a huge career that was both on stage and in film and television. I mean, I even was able, you go through the guest appearances, and of course, there's an episode of Murder, She Wrote on there. You've got a bunch of animated shows because as he got
Teen
into
Titans?
as he got into his later, starting with Pound Puppies in 1986, which totally forgot that was a cartoon, but definitely probably deserves its own A-side. We had an entire cartoon based around selling stuffed dogs and how actually ran for like 2 seasons. Did a lot of voice work in the 80s and 90s, but I said appeared on Murder Show, The Dukes of Hazzard, The Fall Guy, Fantasy Island. So all these shows that I remember watching, and I'm sure that he popped up. I was like, that one picture reminds me of something so much, and it was a movie I had completely forgot about. But one of the things that has popped up many times in our A-sides over the last, almost 90 episodes is how when I was a kid, we would go out for family, nights, and we would get pizza on the way. We'd pick up, either we'd stop at, Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, or back when I was real young, Mr. Movies. And it's funny because that spot where Mr. Movies is now a Napa hardware store, but I still go by
Napa,
and it's still in my head.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's still in my head though. That's Mr. Movies, even though it is clearly an entirely different building, and it hasn't been Mr. Movies for like 30 years. So I really need to let it go. But we would always pick out movies, and the old Disney movies like Love Boat and not Love Boat, Love Bug, not Love Boat, Love Bug, like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
I was about to question you, but
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, Love Boat was a series, but all those sort of 60s and 70s kids movies that often starred like Dean Jones, and were always gonna win. Like I could pick one of those, and my mom and dad would approve it. That'd be fine, even if it's not something that we've seen before. So we went through almost every one of them, and one that I remember picking out on multiple times that I had completely forgotten about is where I recognize Mr. Robert Morse from. And it's a 1970s comedy film called The Boatniks. And it is spelled Boatniks, which is a term I was not familiar with at the time, but I guess it's sort of a like slang term for people on yachts and things. And it started very young. This is like early in his career. I think it was his third or fourth. Okay. No, it's a little further into that. It's about 13 years into his career, but he's still very young. And he plays an ensign who's in charge of a Coast Guard grouping on this small island. And it's very it had that sort of 70s like slapstick comedy aspect to it of the Disney movies where people are falling over, and a lot of that physical humor. And he plays, he's this guy whose dad was a war hero, and now he's an ensign in the Coast Guard, and he's never going to live up to the things his dad did, but he's trying to make it work. And then meanwhile, there are 3 jewelry thieves who are trying to escape down the coast by renting a boat and getting away. And he goes through the whole rigmarole of being a bad captain and getting in trouble, and then finally falls in love, and the two of them figure out these 3 thieves are actually the thieves that they've been talking about in the newspaper, and solves the mystery and gets them. But I, for some reason, loved the show. We probably rented it 3 or 4 times. I remember actually, and I don't know if this is a created memory or if it's a real one that came back, but I remember literally getting in an argument with my younger brother Andrew because I wanted to get it again, and he was like, "No, that movie, I don't even like that movie. You always try to get that movie. I don't want to watch it again." And like this is like a 7 and a 5 or 7 and a 4-year-old arguing in the middle of the video store, which was could you get more late 80s? And then of course I think we ended up getting like the computer who wore tennis shoes or something with a very young Kurt Russell. But I completely forgot about it. So I was like, oh, hey, in honor of Mr. Robert Morse and his career, which again included Tony Awards for the How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, a amazing play called True that I had never heard of, which was a 1-person show about the life of Truman Capote, which sounds incredible. He won for that as well. So 2 Best Actor Tonys in his life. But for some reason, the thing that I remember him most for is a weird sort of kitschy Disney movie that I wanted to find. So then I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to watch The Boatniks. And one thing that I have not understood, and this goes all the way back to the very first A-side that we did almost 2 full years ago. Disney Plus has come out now, but they don't have their whole catalog on Disney Plus.
Right.
They have these movies. They've been digitized because they've been on, TNT or American Classic Movies or anything. But for some reason, you cannot watch a lot of their old movies on Disney Plus. Like for us, the very first episode, we talked about the 2 Ewok adventure movies that were not on Disney Plus at first, and now they are. I think it was within about a month to 6 weeks of our episode airing that they got added to Disney Plus. I'm not saying it was because of us, but I'm just saying there is a connection potentially. So
the power of
my goal, the power of several people listening to it and talking about it and getting it into the algorithm. I'm hopeful that the Boatniks and some of these other 1970s and 60s and 70s, sort of kitschy, silly, fun Disney movies where before Disney was winning, awards for like Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, and like people changed their opinion of what Disney was. It was just sort of fun family fare. And that's all they ever did. So hopefully it will be available now that we put it out there into the ether. You can rent it on Google Play, Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, the VUDU, all for like $3.99, which is coming. That seems to be sort of the price point that all of these movies have fallen under, that we've talked about lately, where you can't find them anywhere. $3.99 is a fairly consistent price, which I guess I used to be like $1 a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the rental. So I guess $3.99 is not that bad. It's a lot cheaper than going to the movie theater, I suppose. But in honor of Mr. Robert Morse, who had a career that spanned from 1957 through 2019. So I'm not good with math, but you're looking at 62 years of being an actor, and who didn't get his first Emmy nomination until near the end of his career with Mad Men, which gives me a little bit of hope that when he was 2008, so he was 78 when he got his first
nomination.
He got his nomination for the standing guest actor. He had some nominations for variety series and stuff earlier in his career, but like that was really his first like big nomination. So that puts a timeline on it for me. If I'm going to I'm going to match his first Emmy, I've got 36 years.
I think you can do it.
I feel that is uplifting. That it's like, oh, it's okay. I've I don't have a Tony, but he has 2 Tonys by the time he was my age. But there's still a chance. So hopefully, that gives me a new goal to shoot for. If you had seen that he passed away, the Mad Men series is available on AMC if you want to see those performances. I have not been able to find True out anywhere, the one-man show that he did, but it was recorded and put on television at one point in 1989, but I have not been able to find any recordings of it that are streamable. So that's something that I definitely want to do. But if you get a chance and you wish to watch my favorite Robert Morse movie, you can download it for just $3.99. So, and a condolences to his family and all of his fans. Seems like an amazing career. I can only wish to be that lucky to still be doing stuff in your late 80s on major networks and things. And it looks like he did just about a little bit of everything. Somebody who just really loved the craft.
That's awesome. You got me thinking about, like, because you were talking about the older Disney movies that were just kind of goofy, and I was thinking, I looked up one, but it's not a Disney one, but it's still one of my favorite ultimate goofy, kind of in that same genre, The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Oh yeah, very very much that same era and time. They tried to remake that one with Jim Carrey, I think.
Oh really?
Like 10 12 years ago, and it didn't. I think it was going to be Jim Carrey, then maybe ended up being Stephen Carell, and it did not go well. But like there was Blackbeard's Ghost was one that we would always rent, where like Blackbeard, actually the ghost of Blackbeard the pirate, is haunting this like college professor who I think was played by Dean Jones. Then there was the the world's greatest athlete, where they find they find Tarzan and they bring him to the US, and he's like a track and field star and just like does all of the events, which was strange. Oh, it starred another, there are so many like great stories and like movies that just kind of disappear because it's been 30, 40 years. But Jan Michael Vincent played the world's greatest athlete as sort of what happened if Tarzan was found by a college track and field coach. It's literally college track and field coach is on a safari and he finds Tarzan and then brings him back and like just basically exploits him until Tarzan quits, and then they reconcile and they go back and the stuff. But I was like, that's very strange. Yeah, little movies like that where you're like, why is this not like available to watch? And it feels like we have this weird media gap where stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, because so much stuff is getting remade now, or new stuff is getting made, and there's all these streaming services, but everybody became their own studio basically. Netflix produces their own stuff, Amazon Prime produces their own stuff. Like when Netflix first started, it was like they would just grab all these old catalogs and be like, hey, you watch this movie that had this guy in it, here's 10 other movies that you're like, I didn't know about any of these. So I feel like we've lost, like there's some of these movies and series and things that haven't been remade are not being promoted on, like everyone's like, oh, we'll rewatch The Office and we'll rewatch Friends. And yeah, they're 20 years old, but nobody's rewatching Cheers anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody's rewatching Taxi. I mean, Taxi was amazing, and I still don't think my parents realized that they're like children are watching Taxi on Nick at Night. But I mean, we grew up, and my brother and I were weird because we love Nick at Night.
I love Nick at Night. What are you talking about?
Well, old Nick at Night.
Yes.
Yeah. So like Mr. Ed and the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it feels like
I was not a fan of Mr. Ed, but Dick Van Dyke and
Mary Tyler Moore,
and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was, it feels like it's all like, it's just not around as much anymore. I mean, at the end, we could get home from school and Leave It to Beaver and the Andy Griffith Show were on Nick at Night at like 4:00.
Yeah.
And I watched probably as much of that as I did anything in the 90s. And it feels like you really got to search that stuff out because it's just not top of mind. And there's so much great old stuff out there that, like I said, you can watch Mad Men with Robert Morse, but if you get a chance to watch The Boatniks instead, or How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, you will enjoy them just as much. And if you know him from Mad Men, it'll be sort of a shock to see him as a younger man in an entirely different sort of goofy 60s, 70s comedy role.
Well, we will, of course, post pictures on our website and the sources to all of the shows that you sources to some of the shows that you talked about, your favorite, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sad. I saw that story yesterday and I was like, and let me tell you, the people that work on IMDb are fast. It happened yesterday and it's updated already.
Oh yeah. It's updated within 20 minutes. I mean, Wikipedia and those websites, I mean, they must have people whose job it is just to verify and update things because you don't want to have it wrong.
Seriously. But
I mean, I trust Wikipedia a little bit, but I trust IMDb way more. I don't trust Twitter at all. If Twitter tells me somebody's dead, that almost makes me think they're alive.
Right. You're like, oh, they're trending again.
They're trending because they're not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, once it hits IMDb, this stuff got real. So.
Yeah. All right. So is that the A side?
That is the A side. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode and you stumbled upon it for the first time, thank you very much. And you're like, how do I find out more about this amazing group of people who do this podcast about Angelina Jolie? And they have 90 episodes or so, 89 actually.
And Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender. The two of them are basically the tentpoles of this A-side, B-side, castle that we've built. Go to A-side, B-side podcast.square.site. On there, you can get links to all of our content on the various streaming platforms, whether that be Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. We've got a YouTube channel, and it's not video, it's just the audio, but you can just turn that on, and if you got the YouTube, it just kind of plays in the background, functions as the same thing. So not everybody, everyone has their favorite platform. We were on all of them, probably your favorite as well. We've got merch. If you're like, hey, it's kind of windy today, I could use a really cool hoodie that's got some blood spatter on it in front of a bunch of tapes. We have one very similar to that online. Also shower curtains, stuff for kids, coffee mugs. Speaking of coffee, Brooke has to go through and edit all of this. And what you hear sounds very good simply because she takes out all the times that I swear in Latin, which is at least a dozen times in a given episode. So you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and put in A-Side, B-Side podcast, and then you can buy her a coffee because she has to stay up all night getting rid of the Latin swearing. What else what did I miss? What did I miss, bro?
No, you got it. You nailed it.
Excellent.
You nailed it.
I would say a Latin swear word, but that would just be another thing that you'd have to edit out. So, Eureka.
All right. So this has been episode 89. Adam, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brooke. Man.